monitoring of monitoring progress. Those requirements have been beefed up quite substantially with the Enru decision of 2017 at the Supreme Court level for what constitutes defensible progress monitoring. That has become a very important issue. We have lots of information on the website, but that was not, as Susan said, we focus primarily on present levels and needs and goals. But we do have information about all aspects of the IEP. So if you look at this, we could separate any one of these and do like a full day training on just one topic. So you're going to get in 30 minutes the whole thing as an overview. Next slide, please.
Yeah, and I do want to reiterate what Jim said, which is that this is not an IEP generation program at all. This is really just best practice and a place to go for information about writing and implementing IEPs, but it does not produce the IEP.
So one of the reasons for the project's beginning is that IEPs back in the day were data free. There was lots of good goals, but very little data about why things needed to be highlighted as specially designed instruction, which is what we call SDIs. But so every need of a student ought to be identified in the present levels, but it does not mean that you have to address everything via a goal. Needs need to be addressed through accommodations, modifications, or sometimes specially designed instruction and a goal. Another issue that was happening at the time this was conceived was a lot of accommodation discussion. Technology has advanced quite a lot. So what we used to call accommodations are now, quite frankly, just built into a lot of systems, large print, change of contrast, things like that for visual needs. But our program, our project started that if we have good evaluation data, we can really prioritize and present levels data, we can really prioritize what we need to do in terms of specially designed instruction, because what we can't change is hours of the day. And so there's only so much time. So how does the IEP project help? It helps with prioritizing what are the needs and where are we going to spend our instructional time. And that's a common feedback item from administrators and from users, which you'll see coming up here in a second. Go ahead, Susan. So here's a couple pictures for you. Next slide. When we did the research part a number of years ago, the focus was on goals because we wanted goals to be respective of conditions, observable, measurable behavior, and a reasonable criterion that could be used. And it's a little hard to explain, but we never, ever, ever talked to children or told people how to work with children. We never worked with students themselves. We only worked with teachers. But the federal law says that to get a federal grant, you have to have student and teacher data both, probably. So what you see here is some teacher data. And it's interesting, we were, as part of the research project, we were able to monitor how often people use the website, where they went, what they did. Now, we don't do that anymore because it's not a research project, but what we're pleased with is that even though no one wrote perfect goals, the teachers, I believe it's blue, Susan, is that correct?
That is blue, Jim.
The high use teachers, and what that means is teachers who use the website with fidelity, looked at the resources, downloaded things, improved a great deal in the quality of their IEP goals that were good conditions, observable, measurable behavior that could be replicated, and reliable measurement. So we were pleased with that. Teachers who were part of our intervention group, but who were what we called low use teachers, that sounds like a terrible phrase, they improved a little bit, but not very much because they didn't make use of the resources. So that was good separation for us. It showed an impact. And then, of course, we had a control group, which pretty much flatlined, which is okay, because if they're not getting an intervention, they ought to do about the same pre and post. Next, please. These are the indirect data, and these come from quite a while back, but this was the transition period between what we used to call ISAT and what we called PARC. So the test was getting harder, but it was still paper. It's a long story. But anyhow, what we're pleased with in this picture is that when you look at the line, it takes 3 years of data to make one impact statement. Teachers were still high use, low use, and control. Then we followed their students, looking at reading measures. And when we looked at the reading measures, on the left-hand side, pre-intervention, there's not much difference, 181 down to 172. Those actually, the students of teachers who ended up being low use teachers actually were a little better readers. And everybody, you'll notice, makes gain from year 1 to year 3. That's just maturity. People go, the way the scales were identified, people go up almost automatically just by maturity. It's called a history effect. What we're pleased with is the blue line, I guess it's blue in the middle. The slope of the line is dramatically, significantly steeper in the year in which they used our IEP project tools, because it helped them focus in on where they were going to spend their instructional time. And they made better use of their time, which show up in the next slide, Susan. User feedback. And again, please understand, we never worked with students directly. These are statements. Are all these from teachers, Susan, or some of
These are all from teachers.
Okay. And you can read them on your own. But one of the things that we were pleased with was that it has a lot of information. People found it very helpful. And it was a good way for teachers to sort of focus in on getting to the general curriculum access as best as possible in a way that was appropriate for an individual child. So you should know that our project was couched in this idea of making the general curriculum as accessible as possible, but we were never saying, ever saying you should not individualize for a child, use the standards, use the state learning goals. That's inappropriate. The idea is, how far along can you move the child in academics? Because we focus primarily on academics to begin with, to be honest. How far can you move them along towards what their non-disabled peers were doing? And the last one was the right-hand side is sort of the overview statement, more buy-in from people. It really helped gen ed and special ed folks who were in sort of shared teaching or co-teaching arrangements, if you want, sort of separate their duties, but also see how everything fit together. I like the quote mostly over here, that to the top right, the gen ed staff loved it because they felt larger part of the IEP. They knew where they were going. Special ed folks told us we could focus in on those the skills kids needed really strongly before they could go into a general ed setting if they were in co-taught. And it was quite helpful for us to have that feedback. And as I said, administrators liked it because I don't want to say people were happier, but it made the division of labor more equitable and people understood where they met, what goals and how they were doing. This last slide is a new slide as of April. And I'm sorry, it's kind of small to see, but the state has asked us to keep track of people who are actively registered and using the site. That's all we know. We don't like drill down very far here. But the idea being that if you added all these numbers up, we have about 6,800 users. Those numbers go up and down because sometimes people make an account and they use it a lot and they get what they want from it and they archive it themselves and then they don't come back, which is fine. As long as it's being used, we're happy with that, finding what you want. But you can see, I don't know where you are, but this is across the state. We have broad usage representing all the service areas. And after that, I'm going to be quiet and let Susan begin because she has a heck of a lot to tell you. And I'll put myself on mute, but it's nice to see people. I'll be quiet. Thanks, Susan.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, everyone, thank you. My job is to quickly, hopefully, show you what we have on the website so that you can then go ahead and use that with your staff. That's our hope. And just to be clear, also, this is a free resource to anyone who is working in K-12 schools in Illinois, public K-12 schools, or a ISB approved private institution. So I will show you very quickly. Here is the IEPQ site. I think I have this ready to paste in here. So let me put it, I'll put the link in the chat if you want to go to the site with me. And here it is. This is what it will look like when you get there. If you do not already have a site or a registration or an account, I just want to show you very quickly how to do that. It's pretty simple. It's pretty much like any other website you have to register for. But on the left side here where it says login, there's that new user registration link. And if you click there, it will take you to this page. There's a little video here that explains who can register and how to do it. But again, it's hopefully fairly intuitive. The only thing I want to point out is that there are 3 different sections here because we had to organize this based on cooperatives and districts, and it got a little tricky. So the first one is if you work directly for a district, you would go here, you would select the county that you are in. So I'll just pick Adams because it's right there. And then you'd click next. It'll take you to this page. And then you have a drop down for the districts that are in Adams County, and you would select your district and then enter the information that it asks for. We ask that people use their work emails because that's how we confirm that you do in fact work for a district. And then it will send you a login and a password that you can use. If I go back, that second box there is for people who work for cooperatives. So that one, you're just going to click next. It works exactly the same way, except the drop down now has the list of cooperatives in Illinois, and you would just register through whatever cooperative you work with. Okay, so I'm going to go back to get back to our home page. You can just click on the icon over here or the home button that's up there on the top left. And I will log in. So I'm going to log in as a teacher here. And I do want to add a couple of quick additional things, just to be clear, very clear here. We have some information on the site for service providers. However, that has not been our focus because we are not service providers. And so we feel like best practice is best practice when it comes to writing IEPs. And whether you are a speech pathologist or you are a classroom teacher, hopefully, how to write a goal should be pretty much the same, but we are not focused. We are not experts in that area. So that is not on there. Also, there is not much information for early childhood because early childhood, as you all know, has different standards and IFSPs and different things. And we have not received funding to address that specifically. So this really focuses more on K-12. So that's just a couple things to get out to let you know before we begin showing you the site. But once you log in, this is what you will see. And I think, as Jim mentioned, the idea here is it's almost like if he was teaching a course on writing IEPs, right? Like here it is on this website. So I want to give you a little bit of the lay of the land of the site, and then hopefully when you leave here, you can take a look at it in your vast free time that we all have in education. But it is designed to be able to use on demand and also take some of the resources that are on here and use them in professional development or in writing your IEPs. So I'm going to start. You'll see there are on the main homepage here, there's a couple of ways to navigate. The first is this top bar, which is green. Jim kept mentioning that he's blue-green colorblind, so that's why he's mentioning the top bar is green. And so I'm going to take you through some of those sections first, and then we'll come back. You can see on the left side where it says IEP help topics. Those are our help topic pages. So when you have a question specifically about that particular section of the IEP, you would go to those particular help topic pages. But I'm going to start by showing you the sections on the top. So the first one is our toolbox. So you can get there by clicking up here on this bar, or you can also just click that giant thing that says toolbox in the middle of the page, and it will take you there. And our toolbox has resources, very selected. There's not a ton here, but there are some usable resources that relate to the different sections of the IEP when you're writing or implementing them. So for example, you can see it's organized by section, present levels, transition, goals and objectives, sort of the order you might consider things as you're writing an IEP. But we have a few things here. I will point out things that get used frequently or that we use in our trainings when we go places most frequently. So first would be, we have some planning sheets, and these are designed, if you don't already have something like this, a lot of places do. And these are just a template for getting information from parents or students or teachers about a particular student prior to the meeting. And so what we have here is just a Word format document that has some questions you might ask, and it's in Word. A lot of these, if we created them, are in Word or Excel on purpose, because we want you to be able to take them and modify them. We're not expecting you to use them exactly as we created them. You may not want to ask these questions that we have here. So we want to give them to you in a way that you can make them your own, or your teachers and your staff can make them their own. So we have some planning sheets here. We also have a diagram that goes through sort of a sentence frame that you can use when you're considering writing your present levels. So that looks like this. And we have that in a format where people can fill it out themselves when they're thinking about their present level statements. We also have similarly some checklist questions. We use these during trainings. Again, it's just some ways, some things that you can look at after you've written present level statements, or when you're comparing present levels or working on them in professional development, to think about whether some of these things are present in your present level statements. So that is there as well. Sorry, I gotta move that out of my and there's other things. If you look underneath goals, we have test questions for goals as well, similar to those present levels ones I just showed you. Underneath, I keep going here, underneath accommodations, we have an accommodations monitoring form that you could use if you really want to think about how accommodations are being used and whether they are effective. So just many different resources here within our toolbox that you could use and look at. We also have links to our goal assistant programs. I'm going to tell you about them. They would take a while to go through, so I don't think I have time to show you, but the idea with our goal assistant programs is, I'll go to one here. We have an academic, a functional transition goal assistant program. These are designed, if you select a needs area for your student and the grade level they're currently in, the next step will pull up state standards that are related to the areas you've chosen that you can think about and consider and select a few. And then it takes you through writing goals that are related to the student needs areas and those standards. So if you want to look at those at some point in our help section up on the top here, I'll show you that right now. So on the far right, underneath help, we actually have videos for each section of our site as well that take you through our website and show you what's there. So for our goal assistants, you can see here, we have a little video for each step. They're not long, but they will show you how they work and sort of the philosophy behind them. So you can always come back to the help section if you have questions about IEPQ and what's on it. Okay, the next section, sorry if I'm going too fast, but I know we have a time limit here. The next section is our student scenarios. These are all fictionalized sort of amalgams of teacher experiences that we've used to create these students. And you'll see here that I have a little chart I need to update with our most recent student, Victoria here. Victoria just got added this year. She is a student who has eligibility and dual eligibility because she is an English learner in first grade. I can't remember if it's first or second right now. So she needs to be added to this chart, but you'll see we have multiple students here, each one has different needs. We started with Jenna, Marcus, Diego, and Curtis. They were our middle school students originally, and we've since added Alicia, Tobias, and Kayla. And for each one of these students, we have a little brief description here on this main page, but if I were to click on one, so I am going to click on Kayla. Actually, no, I lied. I'm going to click on Diego. So Diego here, you'll see on the right has now expanded, and we have here for Diego, if I click on the bottom, some of the documents that we might have used to create Diego's IEP. So his planning sheets that he filled out, his parents filled out, what they looked like, what his functional behavioral assessment information looked like, and then some data charts that sort of went into writing his present levels. And then we have, if you go back up on the top here, for each one of these students, we have a sample IEP on the Illinois IEP form. Here's the entire IEP, the sections of the IEP, and individual pages if you would ever want that. But there's examples here for each one of these students. I will tell you that I am in the process of updating every single one of these to the most current Illinois IEP and also the information on them. That will be done by April. So Diego and Victoria and Kayla are all updated. The rest we are working on and will have done in the next month or two. So those are our student scenarios. Next thing we have up here is our resource library. Here we have links to a few other sections of the site. So websites, some instructional and curriculum resources. We have here behavior data collection forms that people can use. It's like if you took sort of an applied behavior analysis class, and you're trying to take data on students, we have a bunch of charts here that could be used. Some people take these and turn them into Google Forms or print them out, but we always have, if you look at one of these, we will have a PDF first that gives you what it is and sort of a blank one, and then an example filled out. And then we also have a blank one that you can take and change and make your own for all of those behavior charts. We have example goal and objective statements. This gets used quite frequently as well. These are in addition to our student scenario example goals. And we have many different areas here. We do try to make it very clear that these are not a goal bank. We do not want people to copy and paste these, right? Because they're not individualized to your particular student you're working on, but hopefully they work as examples of goals that have conditions and observable measurable behavior and good criteria. And we have objectives for each one that will show you, how you might break things down into objectives. And so these are here just as examples to kind of look at and consider and get the wheels turning when you're writing your goals. And then there's a few other sections here. Classrooms in Action has some charts of standards. We have, Jim mentioned special and general education collaboration. So we do have multiple things on our website that we feel help with that process. And we've just put them all onto this one page so that they're easy to find. So some of those sheets that we talked about, there's a section in step 2 of our goal assistant that allows you to get information from other teachers about where a student's performing in relation to standards. So all of those resources are here on one page to sort of help with that. Katie, thank you for letting us know. I will look into that. Okay. We do also up here, my IEPQ is in relation to the goal assistant programs. It's where it saves any work that you've done in those. So I don't need to show you that today. And then we also have an ISB section here where we have collected sort of information here off of the ISB website. So for example, if I wanted to go immediately to the IEP forms, I could click here and there's a link that will take you to these sections of the ISB site. We have some miscellaneous things here as well, like the dyslexia page, the IEP facilitation system. So anything else that might be related to writing IEPs, we've tried to put that information right here on our website. And then, sorry, I'm doing this very quickly. The main sort of focus of the whole website are these help topic pages that we have on the left side. So let's say that you have a question about goals and objectives, or let's see, do I want to show goals and sure. Goals and objectives. So I'm going to click on goals and objectives right here on the left. And this will take you to our main goals and objectives page. And then you'll see that on the left side, that has expanded, and there's some sub pages as well that get more specific in terms of what the Illinois IEP form is asking for when it comes to writing goals. So we have an objectives and benchmark page, or the examples of what might go in the PLAF above your goals, right? And the thing I wanted to show you too is that for each one of these help topic pages, we have best practice information. And then there is usually going to be some frequently asked questions and answers on the bottom of the page. And then on the right side of most of our help topic pages, these might look familiar here. We have what we very appropriately call side boxes. And they are information that we've pulled from those other sections of the website that I just showed you. So for example, here, because we are on the main goals page, it's going to show you on the toolbox some of those resources that relate to writing goals from our toolbox section. And so you don't have to go back and forth between the help topic page and the toolbox, or the help topic page. Here's our examples, right? So here's our student scenarios. So I just showed you Diego. Well, you could go over here and I could pull up Diego's goals, and I could look at those right away and have an example of what his present levels and what his goals look like on the Illinois IEP form. So you don't have to go back and forth. That should all be right there on whatever help topic page you're looking at. There are a few help topic sections that are not as robust. For example, evaluation and reevaluation. We didn't really want to get into how you decide if a student is eligible. So we do have some information there, and we do link to some ISB examples and just basic information, but it's not going to be as in-depth as, for example, our accommodations or our present levels and goals sections. Let's see what else. So there are a few other things here that are not directly outlined by the IEP form. So, services and placement, assessment, transition, behavior, those are all things you find on the Illinois IEP form. But these last few are just, additional information related to writing IEP. So, for example, our standard alliance goals and objectives section, what this does is take you through the process of considering standards when you're writing your IEP goals. So it will give you some examples. How do you consider the standards? If I went to that, sort of looking at that process and how that works, and then how you write the goals after you've thought about the standards. We also have a little bit of information here. We have a couple of student scenarios. We worked with some professors here at the university to help us write those, because we are not social workers or speech language pathologists. But we do have a couple of student scenarios that have more primary needs in those areas, to give a few more examples, more specific examples in those areas over here as well. And I think, Jim, did I miss anything? I know I went very quickly, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to make sure there was time for questions.
You did a great job. We're starting to get questions, and I actually don't know the answer to some of them. So I think what we should do, in all honesty, is you could wrap it up here in the next minute or so, and then we'll start answering these questions, because I think it'll lead to additional questions and so forth. So that's what I think.
The only other thing, the introduction to IEPQ section here on the top gives you sort of that overview of our philosophy of the website. There is also a little bit of information here on trainings and the request form for training. So that is here underneath introduction to IEPQ, should that be needed. And I think that is it. For me. I'm done talking at you, so hopefully we can talk with you now.
Yeah, so Julie, if you want to like,
Should I stop sharing, Jim?
yeah, well, you might have to show them where things are. There are a few questions that have come in on, anyhow. Julie, do you want me to start with answering these couple of questions here in this?
That would be great,
Okay,
because I know you answered some in the chat as you were going, which is awesome.
well, but Susan then said it anyway, so I'm typing one-handed and she's doing it. So starting at the top, Elizabeth asks, if a student is found eligible both basic reading and reading comprehension, is it best practice to have an IEP goal in both these areas? Well, here's the thing. As a default answer, I would say yes, if the need in both rises to the need for specially designed instruction. If the student is eligible in an area and accommodations can be used solely, then maybe a goal, it doesn't rise to the need of a level of a goal. But I do know that there's typically a one-to-one correspondence between eligibility category, like where someone's and at least the presence of a one goal or perhaps two. So IEPs ought to address all needs. So if both areas, then there ought to be addressed somehow. But I can't think of a scenario where a need, like if this says both basic reading and reading comprehension. I can't think of one off the top of my head where a student's eligible in basic reading and accommodations only can help that concern, but I guess it's possible. So I would think overall the basic answer is yes. And then the next question, again, please remember we're not giving legal advice. I'm just talking what we think is better practice. Can you have one goal in reading comprehension and for the other area address? Well, I just answered that. There you go. That's what I think. And
I would say, Jim, it depends. It's
a discussion.
It's a discussion. And I mean, I'm thinking of one example, like if you have older students where for that basic reading, maybe the goal might focus on being, I mean, this is stretch, Jim, and you can yell at me if I say this, but being sure that they know how to access audio, ways to have text read to them, right? For example. So there are yeah. So that's still addressing the need for basic reading skills, but in a different way than, teaching phonemes, which you might be doing in another way.
Right. I just think what you want to mostly assure yourself is that if a need is identified, like we have those summary statements for present levels. If something doesn't rise to the need for specially designed instruction, say so. But it could still be something you address through accommodations or other services.
Mhm.
The next question was something about, is there a disclaimer that this is not a goal bank? Susan, I don't know. Do we have, I know we say don't use the standards as goal. Do we actually have a disclaimer? It's not a goal bank?
Yeah, we don't. Let me go back to that here, resource library. We don't specifically say this is not a goal bank, and maybe we should, because we always say that out loud. We just have this bold thing here that says it's strongly discouraged, they were fictionalized. But that is certainly something we could add to the site very easily.
So that's something to add. And then I'm sorry, the question about are there pre-written assessments? No, the answer is no. We are forbidden from dealing with assessment on this site. There's another ISB technical assistance project that is supposed to be assessment related, in my understanding. I think we have a separate site for that. That being said, we just have generic principles about what it is you want the assessments to try to cover, making sure all areas are at least addressed through some assessment. Catherine Katie put in the sign-in sheet again. The IAR text-to-speech option, is there a definitive limitation on who can get that accommodation? Oh, I have to refer you to the State Board of Education for that. I don't know the answer, Katie. I really don't. Is there a definitive limit text to speech? I don't know. I'm sorry. I was on the state assessment committee for 15 years and finally got tired of it, so I resigned. I don't know the rule. I don't know the answer. So that might be something to ask your director. I don't know, maybe you are the director of special ed, but that's something I would check with ISB directly. Are there resources available on the site to promote asset-based model? No. We tell people in our trainings, always build on strengths. We want strength-based IEPs, but currently, federal law and state laws require us to address what the student needs are. And officially under ISB rules, you build an IEP based on the asset basis of the student. Always build the IEP based on assets, but be sure all deficits are addressed in some way, shape, or form. That's the straight answer. If either of the two people identify them as former students want to chime in, I think in our program here at Illinois, we always build an IEP based on a strength-based IEPs. But the website had to comply with, I mean, we're not giving legal advice, but the lawyers do look at it. And if we put the word asset on there, they'll take away our Susan's job because we don't want that to happen. So when we do in-person trainings, we talk about building on the strengths always, identifying those in the present levels. Where are the students' strengths and how do you build on those? And for older students, what we're finding, teachers are using this in ways we didn't expect. They're having the students participate in self-directed IEPs by using the website to help guide the discussion about what are they really good at, what do they want to build on, and what do they want to learn this year. So, I mean, again, if you have access to the website, you can use it as you see fit. And there's a teacher at Heritage who was very strong. I still keep in contact with her, very strong in using this for the students to build on what they think they're doing well. She has middle schoolers and early high school, and she loves it using it that way because, and for them, it's new every time. Like she's bored with the site, quite frankly. She's seen it for 15 years, perhaps. She's one of our early people, but every student sees something new on here that they can use. Resources available, the promote, we just answered that. Okay, so that's the end of the written questions that I can see, Julie. Are there others that are coming to you privately?
No, I don't think so. I think they were sent to the group, but I would ask if anyone does have a question that wasn't addressed in the chat box or answering, can you unmute yourself and feel free to ask those questions. And chat question just came in now. Do you provide, oops, it disappeared really quick. Do you provide training to individual districts for teachers?
I
have to let Susan answer that. She's in charge now.
We do. It would, and I will, I'm going to put this back into the chat here. ISB, oh, let me go here. There we go. So that section of the site will give you a little bit more information on the types of trainings we do. We do like to if there is a little form, if you can do that, that helps us because it gives us an idea of whether or not what type of training you're looking for and whether we'd be a good fit. We've done Zoom trainings, we've done in-person trainings, we've done, hour-and-a-half trainings, we've done full day trainings. It really just kind of depends on what you're looking for and if we feel that we can give you what you need. So I'm happy to talk to you about that. You can send me an email or you can take a look at this and see if it looks like something you'd want. So
another question just came in about will they be getting a copy of the PowerPoint presentation? If you want to send that to me, we can email it out to all participants that logged in today or signed up for the workshop, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that.
Is that okay, Katie?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. If you want to send it to Julie and myself, I can send it to everybody who I have on my registration list, just so even if they weren't able to join today, they do have a copy of it so they can access the information.
And then we can post it on our SELA webpage too.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the trainings, there are times when ISB tells us we have to go to a district because they're on the naughty list. We hope none of you are on the naughty list. I know that hearing officers have used us as a corrective action step for a district. Not, Not that we're the only answer, but the idea being that sometimes an issue about IEP implementation comes up, and I'll be honest with you, we are more about producing an IEP that you feel you can implement. We will never monitor your implementation. That's not what we're about. We're about helping you do the best planning you can. People share these resources with their peers, with parents. There is not a separate parent website, but I know people have shared tools from the resource library with parents. It's a great way to promote discussion and keep a record of making sure parental involvement is very much considered and documented. That's a major concern in the state, where districts are not properly documenting parental input and active consideration of parent concerns. Again, this is a whole nother discussion. This is a class and families and cooperation the students might remember, but I mean, you have the affirmatory obligation of soliciting parental input and considering it in earnest, not just saying, yeah, we got it, and discarding it, but it does not compel a district in any way, shape, or form to follow the wish list of parents. If it's 1,000 items, we want this. I mean, it's not like that. But by having these discussions, these documents, that you get parental input, teacher input, and even student input about what are we going to try to do for next year, that kind of addresses the asset-based model that someone asked about. But at the same time, it's not the focus of our of all the building of the IP that we have. But that's people like that, and administrators have told us informally. Again, we worked with teachers directly, administrators only indirectly because they had to arrange stuff for us. But it's been very important that for the administrators who say it's helped their teams work together more cohesively. It's helped with communication, and it produces a paper trail. I know that's an old-fashioned term, but I can show that we've tried to get input from parents. I can show we have this information. I don't know what this means.
Are you asking, how long have we been available, Jim? I have to think about it.
Probably 12
To
years.
everyone,
12,
10
well,
years, maybe?
well, it's 2007. No, 2016.
2016 is when we were made available to everyone in the state.
The last federal grant where it was restricted to was the ended in 2016, Susan, right? After that, we made it publicly available.
I just want to add that the State Board of Education has a lot of really amazing technical assistance projects, and this is one of them. The focus of our Lunch and Learns is to highlight these different technical assistant projects. We just started it. This is our third one. We're going to continue these hopefully next year, highlighting all of these projects. But if you go on ISBE's website, and I'm going to add a link, and it will take you right to ISBE's technical assistance projects. So there's a lot of resources out there that school districts aren't aware of, and that's what we're hoping to do through these Lunch and Learns. But also, take the time and go on there, because our last one was the autism project, the A+ project, which is another really great project, and there's a lot of lots of things out there. So please go visit that link.
All right. Yep.
If we didn't answer your question, or if you have a new question, either feel free to unmute yourself or re-pop it back in the chat box if we somehow skipped over it.
I think I typed. And I just put my email address in the chat box as well. So if you have questions, you can feel free to email me directly.
We appreciate you coming today. We have, we have a lot of things for you to investigate. So make yourself an account and investigate it on your free time, which you have tons of, I know. But the idea being that people find what they want from the website that helps them with their particular situation, the age of the kids they're working with, the type of students with whom they're working, the characteristics of the students. And literally there are people who have binders. They actually take old-fashioned people, they actually print binders full of stuff from the website that they like and they use and they share with their colleagues, but then they don't have to log back in. And that's part of our problem. We can't always know who's using what from the website, because once you find what works for you, you may not need to log back in every day. That's not the purpose of this. It's to give you ideas and resources. So please take what you want and make sure that you use it for yourself. Several of our former students here in the area are turning everything that I have on the website into Google Docs of some sort. And, you know, they make it work for themselves so that teachers can collect data, teachers can share data, parents can get information. It's been quite helpful to see that kind of process.
And
But we
thank-
appreciate it. I know this was a very quick overview, and there is a lot on the site, but we also always welcome feedback and questions. So if you have feedback about the site, feel free to send that as well.
So someone just asked, will they be getting a copy of the PowerPoint presentation? Yes, everyone that was on the Zoom today will get a copy of that. We'll also post it on our SELA webpage. And thank you so much to Jim and Susan. This was great. It's amazing to see what types of resources are out there for our districts and our educators. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're getting a lot of thank yous in the chat box. So I think everyone else echoes my sentiment. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good day. Toodles.